Hello and welcome again. It's day 13, 365 days toward racial change. My name is Tom Lenz Nyback. It's Sunday, and we're talking about issues, what it means to be black in America, uh, understanding white power structures, history, present day economics. We're going to talk about it all in this year. I just want to um, introduce you to, I guess, the individual that really sparked my interest in the subject and uh, got my heart racing about this and made me passionate about the subject. A man named Dr. Claude Anderson. Uh, we're coming out of sections of three of his excellent works. One is a Black History Reader, 101 Questions You Never Thought to Ask, Black Labor and White Wealth. Please get these books too by Dr. Claude Anderson. And his national plan to empower Black America is Powernomics. Now, know this is it's the year 2019, and these books and a lot of his lectures occurred in the early 2000s. Yet the information is still very relevant. Black folks are still we make strides, and we've got our people in place, but we are still coming out from under. We're still underneath, and we're being um, taken over slowly and surely by other peoples and groups in competition for wealth and resources on the planet. So here we go. We're going to, don't let me forget, hashtag us too behind me. Google that, or maybe when you're on Facebook, type that in and you'll come to the community that I always say talking about these issues, articulating them probably much better than I can. Um, today I was recently, you'll hear me maybe talk badly or negatively about whites, Asians, Hispanics, and what's your take on the other peoples on the planet? The people that have or are still oppressing blacks or are winning the competition for wealth and resources, have sequestered or quarantined, in a sense, economically, black folks. What's your take on those people? It's mixed for me because I've got friends from the past. Maybe I don't have any Asian friends now. I grew up with an Asian friend. Um, no specific Hispanic friends, but they are um, they're a good people because of that family, that strong family dynamic they have. That I wish blacks had. Um, that's appealing to me, and I grew up and still am pretty much immersed in white circles and white community, and move in and out of that. I know how to move in and out of that community um, comfortably. It's just where I've been for many decades. But I want to get your kind of flavor because I don't want this to become like hate speech or political or anything like that. I say that because I was coming out of work yesterday. It's we're entering winter months, and young Hispanic man with his nice warm vehicle offered me a ride all the way home, right to my doorstep. And it took me aback, after this nearly 2 weeks of talking about the races and position of blacks and all that, you know, there's going to be outliers, exceptions to the rule. It's not 100% per se. I just wanted to tell you that in today's introduction. So be wise in your allegiances and um, where you put your resources, your energy to where you put your energy to dismiss or accept a certain person. You know, I mean, ultimately, I would love a world where just each person just came to the table with who they are, color and all, but not be accepted or rejected at first glance on their color. You know, that's my idealistic thing, but that's a complicated issue. Just know that not all white people, not all Asians, not all blacks, not all Hispanics can be put in one basket. Okay. Now, on that note, I want to talk about God. You know, this is I write my notes. I pre a lot of this is programmed. You know, days in advance. Even the videos are. I try to stay ahead of them because I know my nature to be lazy. You know, and then if I miss a day, it's easier to miss a day again. Oh, I miss a week and all that, but I really want 365 days. There's plenty of material here, and I'm always getting ideas. If you're inclined to email me, I know I've gotten some feedback, so now I'm including some notes, some brief notes and text um, for people who have data limits. Data is part of my rental agreements, so I'm pretty liberal, you know. If I ever move, you know, that may change. But so I stay ahead and try to get these things uploaded well in advance. So it's Sunday, and God, the issue of God just happened to fall on this day. It wasn't planned at all, you know. But it's going to be a two-parter. First will be our introduction. We got to talk about God because oh, I forgot my book is not here. I don't want to pause the tape, but another book we are reading is Harriet Beecher Stowe's Uncle Tom's Cabin. Please get a copy of that. You know, and I think Google even has a book online you could read. You know, Kindle probably has a free version or whatnot. But that book also, that's a fictional account of slave and white life, black and white life in America in the mid 1800s. Okay, and we're looking at that book because that book has informed American culture as far as the relationship between whites and blacks. And a couple days ago, I did an introduction, did chapter one. We're moving through that. God comes up because it figures in the story. Remember, you know, America as a white nation, we used to be really, as a nation, prideful. We were a Christian nation. You know, that used to be one of our um, bullet points in the international community. Not so much anymore. We've had to recant, and America does that. You know, America goes through its processes always refuses to be nailed down to any degree. So, but we have to answer God because you know, in Uncle Tom's Cabin, God's absent. I think Dr. Anderson may mention it at some points, but his focus is more political and economic, those things. I want to broach God because of what our perception is, What do we think about this God who allows some, why do good things happen to bad people type of thing? So we've got to kind of answer the question anyway. One thing I don't like is any preconceived notions about anything. I don't like, I want there to be thought. We can't be passive um, about anything. Are you passive about your children? Don't be passive about um, your income. I live in a place where they have bike locks and things, and because I didn't micromanage, I trusted that the management was a collection of mature people who had a process, and but I did my part, handed in some documents to register the bike and all that. But they didn't do their part. I didn't follow up and on and on and on. And now I lost the bike because they didn't do their part. You know. So, when we talk about um, God, we've got to be just as active. You I mean, think about the early blacks in the nation. Didn't see, for some reason, there was a disconnect there as they were slowly and incrementally indoctrinated into the slave industry at the bottom of it, no doubt. I can sit back here and lights and I got paid bills and income and all that, which isn't as far as from slavery as we want it to be, but you can imagine the life of a black person back then probably was even more limited. Not a whole lot of options. A lot of the marches and stuff hadn't happened yet. The advocacy. Okay. So with God, I want to be. Let's be active in our thought now. Um, I am looking at the Bible, using that as a starting point. But I don't want us to think about our religion. You may be Catholic, Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, who have no God. Uh, my goal is to think about a superpower and how that power allows, um, oh boy, some of the most horrendous things that man can do to man on this earth that our history is filled with daily. I want to say yearly, but that's naive. Daily, somewhere on the planet, as I'm speaking, some atrocity is being perpetrated against a human being by another human being. We're the only creatures that do that. Not even wild animals do that. Although cats do play with mice, but I like cats. I wanted to broach just because a couple days ago I stumbled on the verse. I'm coming out of Isaiah 41:4, and don't want to get into a Bible study. I don't want to whip up your church process and things you've heard from the pulpit. We're just going to take one little text and bring that into that very simple, bare bones process. Who has performed and done this, calling the generations from the beginning. I, the Lord, the first, and with the last, I am He. And in your notes there that I have attached today, out of New Century Version, it's God. It's the same verse, just said in a different way, of paraphrasing. You know, who's controlling history? I do that. In the New Testament, Peter and Paul talk about um, being submissive to the powers and things like that. Now, having said that, understood that, read that, how does that figure into a land and a planet and peoples who are apparently favored with power to um, enact crimes against another people? Now, in my case, it's not people of color, not diversification and all that watered down version. It's black people, period. That's the focus here. Um, there's plenty, everybody's a color, but black people are the ones who are enslaved in this country and experience their own kind of Holocaust at the hands of this nation and have not found a way consistently and in general as a group to be successful in this land with incredible wealth and resources. That's by design. It's purposefully enacted against black people. Now, God, who's um, this higher power, um, with power over everything and created stuff and can move mountains and whatnot, allows this to happen. In the black individual's case, the Jewish slavery in the Old Testament, and you can look at their Holocaust in World War II, and people are constantly drawing connections and parallels there. But you know, the Jews got a land. The Jews kept um, their sense of community, solidarity. They had a language, a religion, which religion was more their banner. And bad things happened to them at the hands of evil people and regimes, but um, because of their unity and their ability to come together, focus, they now are a great nation again and wield immense economic and political power again on the planet. You know, um, not so for the slave. The slave underwent. Now, this is before World War II, obviously, but the slave underwent incredible mind washing, physical abuse, sexual abuse, um, economic privation. Now, in all of this, um, here comes the white power that disseminates God to this oppressed culture, but it's sifted through white power. So it's always going to lift up white power. We're not there yet in Uncle Tom's Cabin, but in a discussion about heaven, uh, it's communicated to a black person that the blacks' oppression and difficulties in this life will be alleviated in the next life, and they'll sit. There's a reversal, and they'll sit equal with whites, but it's not the whites' um, privilege turns into disadvantage in heaven. It's not a reversal for whites. The whites win and stay one, but for blacks, it's a reversal. You know, but that's how the indoctrination is. So we have to be careful about what we feel about God and how we come to believe, because are we like the slave, passively receiving this information from the pulpit? And yeah, that's how it is. But that's just what the slave did. You know, the slave passively received information. This is an eternity we're talking about here, and putting proper context into our experience in light of there being some heavenly creature, some superpower running the universe. Got to come to some, through wisdom, some point of reconciliation of these two very different poles of human existence. So we don't want to be passive. We got to be constantly at it in everything. It's like you don't see me here. I wear glasses, but it's for distance. But I'm right here in front of you, so I wear my glasses. But it's like just like we need to put on a type of glasses to see through those glasses and properly adjust the world. Because even though we can read, we've been to church all our life, I know, and all that, but then we take it for granted, and we can fall asleep even in the midst of receiving important information that bears on our eternity, if you believe in that kind of thing. And that's not something you want to be passive about. I just recently got involved in investing, and because of my past experience with my bike experience, and a lot of other things like may still be intact and successful in my life had I been more actively involved. You must be actively involved with God. And so the Word of God, it's the Word of God, our lives, faith, church, things like that, have to make sense. Wow, God, like, okay, on the one hand, okay, universe, I was born black, and that um, apparently puts me at a disadvantage in this geographical location in which I'm born. Then on the other hand, you say, you know, that group is born white or another color or to another religion or some other um, kind of community that receives privilege. You know, if we don't question even those simple mundane things, um, then we're just automatons. We're not. We're on the plantation, or we are living in an illusion, and we're living in an illusion, and we're apathetic about that. We need to care. I believe we need to care. The call to action is to think. I don't want you. I'm not asking anyone to be aggressive towards perceived oppression. But I'm not telling you everything is all right either. Wherever you are, I will say, wherever you are, we need together to start um, being participating more in life and making making choices that make us better on the planet. I'll tell you my personal journey. I work nights, so I'm looking at the stars and I'm talking to God a lot and to myself a lot. I crack myself up. But I've come to two basic laws that I found have been working very well with me. And one is, that uh, through my allegiance to God and however I feel about spiritual high matters, I can make certain choices based on that. And want to make those choices to please this God or power that I'm talking to, believing in. But then there's another law or another method of life I have, and that is in the world, things, the machine works a certain way, and I can choose whether or not to um, to move in that way with no negative consequences to my conscience. Um, I can, I don't give everybody a dollar that asks. Sometimes I do. It's that kind of thing, you know. It's not about pleasing God or wisdom or anything. It's about in this world we need to be wise with our resources, and I can choose to dominate or submit or find some place in the middle, and it still be all right, you know, because I'm finally getting with how the law in the world works. And I don't think God has any problem with that because the God that we're talking about created these powers and systems. And there's a time to submit, but there's a time to create, be a business owner, to dominate, to get ahead. You know, sometimes at others' expense. You know, that I I look at how that's happened to me. Maybe some of the times that I've been successful or have taken advantage. You know, there's moments when they come and go, and wisdom dictates how to behave. So that's a brief introduction. Just to be, as we talk about God, and through this year, it'll come up. You know, like I've said, we're all over the place, and I'm glad. Just be secure where you stand, but be understand where you stand. Be actively engaged in why you stand where you stand, moment by moment. Um, the slave couldn't read, you know. Who knows what some of those early sermons were like, where um, the slaves couldn't have church unless there was a white man present to monitor, you know, censor what was happening. So, well, how much of that activity was um, actively participating, receiving some truth to live by, versus just going through another slave motion with a white man present. You know. I'll finally end with this today: is that truth is inexorable. I mean, what I mean is, truth is like that blade of grass you see popping out of the sidewalk. You know, that sidewalk is very powerful, pressing, its force there. You know, but it's a stagnant force. That little blade of grass, that weed, is just enough that for over time it's going to separate those giant blocks of cement. You know, think of a tree, a sapling. Maybe you live in an old neighborhood and you see this sidewalk is bent upward because the tree just grew and it just muscled um, those concrete slabs out of the way. You know, that's the way truth is. Um, so while there may have been attempts to manipulate certain aspects to advantage another group, I believe that truth is going to make its way through and make its way known. And God, in my mind, is so powerful. That's God can lay it out there and people can trample it, talk about it, rearrange it and everything. But the essence of what this power wants to come through will come through. So there's your challenge today is dismissing how you do church, even salvation. I want you to think about this powerful God, the position of powerful white power, the vulnerability, and the labor of black life in America. Where's all that stuff fit in um, to the idea of God? I'd like to hear back from you. Let me know. We'll talk again tomorrow. Bye bye. Again, I am Tomlin's Nyback.